Talking to myself again, but it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. It feels alright.
Hi, welcome along to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. Those were the days with me and George Mitchell. And as always, I hand over to George. Which year are we going to this season?
69-70 today, Steve.
69-70, following on from the Fairs Cup win, which was a delightful two-parter, which you can catch in the playlist.
Yeah, and it's good to remind ourselves about that, because we're now holders of a major European trophy, which doesn't happen very often. And what irritated me was, of course, is that as soon as we won it, some of the pundits and certainly the supporters of the big clubs, or so-called big clubs, it's only the Fairs Cup. Well, we beat some fantastic teams in that Fairs Cup, and they shouldn't be allowed to forget it. And so, we start this season. And what has the impact being Fairs Cup holders had on the club, for example? Well, financially, amazing. $250,000 on top of their turnover at a time when they're trying to rebuild the stadium was really, really important, and a 50 grand in the black profit straight away. So Harvey had to manage the team thus far with one hand tied behind his back, because there was no money, because it was all going into the ground. When now there was 50 grand to spare. Mind, it didn't take him long to spend it, but never mind. What did Harvey get out of it? A new 5-year contract, a £6,000 bonus. Doesn't sound a lot, but in those days it was real money. And the coach and staff all got £1,000, which people like Jimmy Greenhall and his team thoroughly deserved. So it was a huge, huge impact on the club winning this trophy. And other things that happened, well, going back to Harvey's style, 60 games and we only used 24 players. Pop Robson, the first player in nearly 20 years to score 30 goals in a season, which was not to be sniffed at. It's absolutely great. And we're Fairs Cup holders, and we're heading off in the new season, 1969-70. So what's happening in 1969? Well, in the music world, the top 10, I'll just give the top 4. He interviews My Brother, the Hollies. Where Do You Go, My Lovely, Peter Sarsted. My Sentimental Friend, Herman Herberts. And Sandy Shaw, Monsieur Dupont Slaveur, was heard offering at number 4. And if you're a cinema goer, picture goers, Marge and I were, top grossing pictures and most popular, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, The Love Bug, Midnight Cowboy, and Easy Rider. Well, there's quite a selection of fascinating pictures, and I have to confess, Marge and I would have seen them all, there's no doubt about it. So that's where we are, and we head off into looking at the football, and there we are, proud possessors of the Fairs Cup, with the squad, Jimmy Greenhall at the middle at the back, and all the lads around them, and some surprises. Little Benny Arontoft on the far right here, the little blonde lad, for those that didn't know him, came in as an unknown, really, and got into the team and established himself. Once he got on, he didn't get moved, and he stayed right to the Fairs Cup final and played a great part. And a typical example of Harvey being loyal to the people that worked for him, and Benny Arontoft worked for him. So that's a decent squad, and Tommy Gibb is in the second row, just along from Wyn Davis at the left there. I mentioned Tommy because he played every game. There was one or two missed the odd one. Tommy Gibb never missed a game, and I think that's a huge contribution by any player. So a good squad to have, and we're going into this next season as holders. So we enter the Fairs Cup again because we're holders, and it's something to look forward to. Is I think how there was optimism around, and that was great. However, this is Newcastle United I'm talking about. In the first three games, three friendlies, would you believe? I mean, you would believe, Steve, because you hear me say this so often. We played Hearts in July, Hull City in early August, and then Hibs in these three friendlies. And the Hearts one was at home. 21,000 went to that, and Pop Robson scored the goal. And then Hull away and Hibernian away. And we lost to Hull, and we drew 0-0 with Hibs, but managed to get a 16,000 crowd at Easter Road, which is quite a lot for a friendly. So we setting off in our usual way. At least they're warmed up for the season as it starts. That's for sure. So the first game was an away game at West Ham, and I think there should be a West Ham programme there, and it is, yeah. And people are optimistic enough after the last season to think, well, we got turned over there in the previous seasons, and with the West Ham with their big team, with their very strong international input. People weren't sure how it would pan out. Well, it panned out. We lost 1-0. But we didn't do ourselves too badly. Apparently, we played very well. 33,000 at the game at Upton Park, and the lads give a good account of themselves. And we start the season almost exactly the same as we'd left the season before, with McFall, Craig, Clark, Gibb, Burton, Monker, Sinclair, Robson, Davies, Aaron Toft, and Alan Foggan. I mean, you could have gone back into the middle of the previous season, and that's the team I would have been reading out. West Ham, of course, with all that, their stars, Billy Bonds, Martin Peters, Harry Redknapp, and Jeff Hurst. And indeed, it was Jeff Hurst who sunk where he scored a goal in 60 on the hour, 60 minutes. To take the points, but the important thing is that the lads give a good account of themselves, and everybody was not unhappy, shall we say. And the next game was a home game against Sheffield Wednesday, and Sheffield Wednesday weren't. I mean, they stayed in the division by the skin of their teeth, so nobody was frightened of Sheffield Wednesday when they came. 41,300 turned up for the game, which tells you about the confidence of the fans. The Gallagher corner was packed, and we beat Sheffield Wednesday 3-1. And our team was unchanged. McFall, Craig, Clark, Gibb, Burton, Monker, etc. And Sheffield Wednesday came with their well-known team with Ellis and Peter Eustace. They had a midfielder called Tommy Craig playing. That's a name we get to know a little bit later on, much better than it did now. And then David Ford. Now, David Ford went from us, and at some stage, Harvey decided to bring him back, and we'll see when that happens. And a new lad playing for Sheffield Wednesday called Alan Warboys, who became quite a well-known, popular player. But 3-1 win gets off to a reasonable start at home, and our next match at home is Manchester City, and there's the programme. I wish they'd do something a bit more imaginative with the front of the programmes.
Yeah, it's becoming boring, isn't it?
It's I mean, is this the second or the third season we've had that? I think it is. Yeah, it's certainly not the first season. Anyway, it made the first cup programmes that would look that much better. Anyway, Manchester City came, and as always a tight game with Manchester City. We seem to get a good game with Manchester City wherever we are, home or away, and everybody's anticipating a good game. 47,000 at the game, which for a second game is quite a good turnout, and it speaks to the optimism of the fans. In the unchanged team, McFall, Craig Clark, Gibb, Burton, Monka, Jim Scott slides in instead of Sinclair on the right, Pop Robson, Wyn Davies, Ben Arontoft and Alan Foggan. Harvey's sticking to his loyalty programme that he's always had. Manchester City, well, they've got one or two new names who become quite famous. Big goalkeeper, huge goalkeeper called Joe Corrigan, who was with them for a long time. A really decent keeper and a bit of a character. Tony Booth, of course, was at left back for them. The grand old man of the team by now, but a very good player. And he in the midfield, Colin Dell and Tony Coleman were star players by then. And up front, of course, that Mike Summerby and Francis Lee. Well, on this particular day, we were able to keep them quiet. I think there may be a couple of action pictures there, Steve. And that's Franny Lee having a go at McFall. Typical Franny Lee picture, always good. And that's Frank Clark making a spectacular headed clearance, which is quite unusual, quite an unusual picture, that one. And McFall again with Francis Lee, and you just need to look where his foot is to see what sort of enthusiast, shall we say, that Franny Lee was when the ball was near the goal. But a 1-0 win and thoroughly deserved. So that's great. We're starting as we mean to go on, hopefully. And then we're off to Sheffield Wednesday. Is there a? I'm not. Yes, there is. There is. Yeah. Sheffield Wednesday weren't. They were beatable. We went with some optimism to Sheffield Wednesday in the hope that we might get another couple of points, but it wasn't to be. We 19,000 at the game, and we took the same team, McFall, etc., in the team. One slight difference is that Benny Arontoft got injured, and we got a surprise substitute who'd just been bought the week before. I told you that Harvey wouldn't take long and spend the 50,000 profit out of the first cup. Well, he spent 100,000 on Jinky Jim Smith from Aberdeen, and that's who came on as substitute against Sheffield Wednesday, and Alan Foggan on the left. So we now got a Jinky Jim in the team, and I think he suffers for the fact that Harvey's telling the whole world that this lad's a magician. He's got the weight of the world on his back, but never mind. Sheffield Wednesday, same team that played at Newcastle, and Tommy Craig's back in the midfield again, and Ian Brandfoot is in it right back. Now Ian Brandfoot's a local lad. He's I think Ian Brandfoot's a Gateshead lad originally, but he ended up with Sheffield Wednesday. So we lose that 1-0, and a bit disappointing because people had expectations that we might do something at Sheffield Wednesday. The next game we go away to Leeds United, and we know this is going to be a tough game, always is at Leeds, but they're highly regarded as one of the challengers for the Championship now, because they were the reigning champions. They did eventually win the league the season before, and so we go to Elland Road, 41,000 at the game, with a good game is what I read when I was looking into this game, both from the Leeds papers and our own papers. It was an enjoyable game, and our team was as predicted, unchanged, except that Aaron Toft was fit again, and Jinky Jimmy Smith slipped back into the substitutes role. They opened the scoring with their centre forward, Jones, a big bustling lad, centre forward, very, very popular centre forward, played a few times for England. And it looked like we were going to slip into a 1-0 loss. But in the second half, Newcastle seemed to waken up quite a bit, thanks to the efforts of little Benny Arontoft. He gave Leeds a tough time for about the last half hour. And sure enough, he laid on the ball for Jimmy Scott to slot the equaliser in on 70 minutes. And we get a 1-1 draw, which is a great result for us. So we're now... I've said this before. I don't know what the rationale is behind the way they did the fixtures in these days, but we're a third game away from home. We're at Manchester United, it seems a trifle harsh, to put it mildly, that we face Leeds and Manchester United on 2 consecutive games, but the third game away from home. And as I'd expect, 53,000 rather, 260 at the game. And it's a good game. It's a 0-0, but it's an end-to-end 0-0. Could easily be 2-2, 3-3 if the chances had gone in, because the woodwork was peppered at both ends. But we did very well, and the team was unchanged. McFall, Craig, Clark, Gibb, Burton, Monker, Scott, Robson, Davies, Aaron Toft and Foggin. And Manchester United with all their stars, Alex Stepney in goal, Tony Dunn at fullback, Paddy Creran, Willie Morgan, George Best, Bobby Charlton, Brian Kidd, and Don Givens, a new Irish lad on the left side of their attack, come into the game, called Don Givens, to become quite a hero at Manchester eventually. So 0-0 is a good result at Old Trafford, and we're heading home to a home match against Arsenal. And as I say, the fixture inventors on this particular season didn't help us very much. Leeds, Manchester United, Arsenal were a trio to face in the early part of the season. However, we go back to face Arsenal, and as they say, you've got to be in it to win it. So everybody's hoping that we can at least get a point out of Arsenal. Because again, they're once again, as far as the pundits are concerned, Arsenal are likely to be up there challenging for the title. Well, with 47,200 in the ground, but unfortunately, they were silenced almost immediately when Arsenal forward Robertson in less than 20 minutes put them ahead, and it looked like we really were going to have a battle on our hands. But lo and behold, within 34 minutes, Wyn Davies scored an equaliser, and then just after half time, round about 50 minutes, Alan Foggin put in the lead, and then 10 minutes from the end, Pop Robson scored the third goal, so we beat Arsenal 3-1, and that's quite a creditable performance. And it was a good match. I wasn't actually at that match. I'm trying to think why I wasn't, but I wasn't at that particular game. But all the reports and that said it was a good win and a very creditable win. Same team, with Benny Arontoft holding his place and everybody else holding their place. Jimmy Scott keeping the right wing. And Arsenal, well, they've now got a fixture in their goal as Bob Wilson, the well-known goalkeeper, and became a TV pundit. Frank McClintock, Terry Neal, Irish guy, and then left side of the defence is a lad called Peter Simpson, who became well known because he tended to be a bit over the top, should we say, in his tackles and so on. But however, and then Charlie George, the mercurial, I think is the word they use these days for somebody like that. Really talented midfielder. Sadly, likely to get into a bit of bother as well, because he liked to go out with the boys. And of course, someone who we knew very well who'd been injured and was now fit, and that was George Graham. George Graham, huge reputation in football, and massive for the Arsenal, both as player and manager. So 3-1 to defeat Arsenal. That's great. And so now we're off on our travels again, and we're off to. Sorry, we're not. Yes, we are. We're off to Sheffield United, and this is the League Cup, second round. Now, they're two words you don't associate with Newcastle, not without pain. So this is a League Cup second round, and everybody's off to Bramall Lane, 22,000 at the game. And we think, well, surely Sheffield shouldn't be that tough. We should be able to take them, even if it is away from home. Well, not to be, I'm afraid. Sheffield knocked out the League Cup 2-0. And, people can't even use the excuse that Harvey played a weakened team. He never did. He always sent the team. And he did again, McFall, Craig, Clark, etc. And Sheffield United, a good team, but not a one that should have beaten us. The goalkeeper, Alan Hutchinson, was the England goalkeeper, and Alan Woodward was a very clever forward who went on to play for Nottingham Forest. Colin Addison, who they'd got from Arsenal, very talented midfielder and talented manager in later years, and they had a midfielder, a striker called John Tudor, who was to raise interest in our part of the world much later in his career. And on the left side of the attack, they introduced a young kid, blonde kid called Tony Curry. And Tony Curry became quite a talented and attractive footballer and played for England. So we can forget the League Cup again, boys. That's well truly gone. We're after that trip to Sheffield, which knocked the stuffing out of everybody as usual, we're off to Ipswich, and Ipswich currently playing well, but below us in all in league status as it were, and everybody was hoping that this would be a trip to a victory. Well, the hopes were soon dented because it was another 2-0 loss at Portman Road, 18,200 at the game, and with our usual team playing. The only thing of note for our team was that midway through the second half, Alan Foggan got a nasty injury, and Dave Elliott went on as substitute. Ipswich, good team, but not outstanding. Mick Mills still in the team, and Charlie Woods, our former midfielder that we'd sold to them a couple of years prior to that, who I knew quite well. In fact, I knew Charlie really well. So much so when we came to play Barcelona later on, it was Charlie that got me my ticket. And Mike Lambert was centre forward for them. a good side, but not one that should be knocking us over. But they did 2-0, and it's kind of putting a dent in our league position that we're hoping to slide up rather than down. And then the next game is a home game against Derby. Now Derby, good side, but they should hold no fears for us. Well, 39,300 at the game, and we should have had fears because the beat were 1-0. And I do remember being at that game because we had family up from Derby. My dad's sister lived in Derby, and some of the younger members of the family came up with the team and stayed with me, my mother and my granny and so on, and everybody went to the match. We kind of surrendered is the sad thing for me. We never really looked like we're going to beat Derby, and it was 0-0 at half time, and everybody thought, well, this is going to be a 0-0. It's just sliding that way. But a young centre half who was become their star and their captain, called Roy McFarland, got a header from a corner on 48 minutes, and that was that. We lost 1-0, which was disappointing. But as I say, the family from Derby enjoyed their weekend and got a win as well, just to rub it in. So we're now into Fairs Cup territory, and we're into the next round, first round of the Fairs Cup, or it was actually second round, but it's Fairs Cup anyway. And we're going to play Dundee United, and we're going away to Dundee United. That's it, and people weren't sure how this would go. The experience the previous year was that we did all right in Scotland. I mean, we beat Rangers, for goodness sake, so why can't we beat Dundee United? We did. We beat Dundee United 2-1. Quite a good win, 21,000 at the game, which at the time was the most that had in Tannadice Park for a long time, which says a lot, really. We won quite well. I think there might be other pictures there. That's the kickoff at Tannadice.
Yeah, it's just the one photo, mate.
Right, that's fine. And it was a good win and a good out and all round, I think is the fair thing to say. Dundee had a number of Scottish internationals, Alex Reid, Doug Smith, both played for Scotland at the time, Dave Wilson and Dennis Gillespie on the left side. They were all current Scottish internationals playing for Dundee, so there were no slouches, no pushovers. And Harvey sent our team with the same team, except he left Alan Foggan on the bench and slipped Jimmy Smith onto the left wing. And I think that was him thinking, well, they know about Jimmy Smith and how good he is, so we'll give them a bit of a run out and see if he can frighten them. He had a good game, but I wouldn't say he had a brilliant game. But a 2-1 win was a great way to start our Fairs Cup campaign, it was next was a home game to Everton, and everybody's quite high after the Fairs Cup win again, and thinking, well, you know, we're off on our travels again, and surely we can get something out of Everton. The only but I'd put into that is that Everton were being talked about as serious champions. That's how well they were playing. So we'd have to be on our mettle. Well, we were on our mettle. It was a good game, but unfortunately, they beat us 2-1. 37,500 at the game. Our team was same team, except Jimmy Smith was dropped back to the bench again, and Jackie Sinclair stuck on the left wing. Everton had all their stars playing, is how I'd put it. You know, Gordon West in goal, Brian LeBone, John Hurst, Alan Ball, Colin Harvey, Howard Kendall, Johnny Morrissey, Joe Royal, and playing up front alongside Joe Royal was Jimmy Husband, ex-Newcastle schoolboy who went to Everton. Didn't play for Newcastle United, but he played for Newcastle Boys. Well, Jimmy Husband came home and had a blinder and scored the 2 goals. They beat with 2-1, thanks to Jimmy Husband. So there was a bit of gloom descended on the Gallagher then, because we're now not looking like title challengers or even halfway. We're now slipping below halfway, and that's not good. So we're off to Southampton now, and people thinking, well, we've had such a dire run of league results, so we're going to get anything at Southampton. Well, in fact, we did. We did get something at Southampton. We drew 1-1, and it was a good game. I'm told, good football game, and we frightened ourselves to death, of course, because Mick Shannon was their big striker then, and he opened the scoring within 5 minutes, so it looked like we were going to be backs to the wall. But no, the defence held out, and Brian Pop Robson, equalised just on 55 minutes, and then after that, it's a match we could have won, but we just couldn't put the second goal in. And the team, well, it was exactly the normal team that we've got, except that Jackie Sinclair was back on the left wing and Jim Smith dropped back to the bench, and Dave Elliott had been in the team and was badly injured in the second half. And Harvey introduced a young lad out of the juniors called Alan Duffy, who looked like a brilliant prospect, but it didn't last very long. But as you'll see as we go on, so 1-1 at Southampton was a good recovery. It was how people felt. So we're now going home to a home game against Wolves, and Wolves are a strong team. We always have interesting games against Wolves, and particularly if they've got all their big guns there, Derek Dougan, a centre forward, who was a roughhouser. Anyway, we play Wolves, 38,000 at the game, and we same team Harvey sends out, except that Ollie Burton's got a bit of a knock, and Big John McNamee comes in at centre half. Now, whether that's because it really was because Burton was injured, or whether Harvey was expecting Derek Dougan to be their centre forward and combat fire with John McNamee, I don't know. But anyway, John McNamee came in. Otherwise, the team was the same as it's been all season. And Woods, well, despite all the Phil Parkes was in goal, great goalkeeper. Frank Monroe, Paul Walker, Jim McCalliog, who they'd got from Sheffield Wednesday, now, and Mike O'Grady they'd got from Leeds, David Wagstaff, who had been introduced to the team. But the centre forward was a young lad called Mike Bailey, who was replacing Dougan, and we having worries about Dougan. We didn't even have the worries because he didn't play. Anyway, they give us a fright. They got McCalliog got a goal in the first couple of minutes, and it looked like we were in for a difficult afternoon. And lo and behold, just after half time, Pop Robson put a penalty in, beautiful penalty, and we got back to 1-1, and that's how it stayed at the end of the match. But I remember being at that game. It was an interesting 1-1. Could have gone either way, but we held out to the end, which was absolutely great. And the next game is of course the return game in the Fairs Cup with Dundee United, and that's a much more attractive programme. I have to say they did use their brains when they invented those programmes, and we're already in the lead, so anything we get is a bonus. And 37,500 at the game, and we do get a goal that matters. Keith Dyson scored it, but lo and behold, Dundee held out right to the end, and on the 90th minute, Keith Dyson slotted a one in just to rub the victory in this round of the Fairs Cup, and everybody delighted with 37,500 going home happy. Our team, well, it stayed the same with Big John McMee still in the at centre half, and unfortunately, Alan Fogan got an injury just towards the end, and Benny Arontoff came on for Fogan. Dundee had the same it was exactly the same team that would be played in Dundee, but that was matterless. We beat them 1-0 in progress to the next round of the Fairs Cup, which is cheering everybody up no end. We're the holders, and let's see if we can hold on to it, I think is how people felt. So the next game is an away game league game at Crystal Palace, and Palace programmes always have that crest at the top, but they change the rest of the programme quite regularly, which is quite nice. But at Sellers Park, 29,000 at the game, and everybody back home's thinking, well, Palace are about where we are, so surely we'll get at least a draw. Well, they did better than a draw. They won 3-0. And the star of the game was Wyn Davies. Wyn Davies that day was on his best and was almost unplayable. Pop Robson scored in 26 minutes, Wyn Davies on 60 minutes, and Dyson on 76. But the other two goals from Robson and Dyson were knockdowns from Wyn Davies. He was just in one of those moods where if they stuck it in the air, he was going to get his head on it. And it was he had a brilliant game. And our team, well, predictable. McFall, Craig Clark, Gabe McNamee, etc. People can read it for themselves. It's so straightforward. Palace trying one or two new players in the team, and they introduced a young midfielder called two young midfielders called Steve Kember, who played for Palace for a lot of years after that and played for England, and Jerry Queen, another talented Scotsman who played for Palace. And they both were Palace's the backbone of Palace's team for a few years after this. But a 3-0 win away from home, and we're climbing the league again. So the next game we've got is an away game to Manchester City. As I've said more than once, always a tough game at City, and with 32,000 there, we go with some confidence, haven't won at Palace, but confidence or not, we lose this one 2-1, which is a shame because we actually went in the lead with Pop Robson, but Young and Lee, that the two top strikers, pulled two back and they won 2-1. But a good game, and the lads give a good account of themselves. And City, well, it was the team that played at St James's Park with Corrigan and Tony Booth, Tony Book, Ian Bowyer, Colin Bell, Francis Lee, Mike Summerby, Neil Young, all of whom were either former or current internationals. And our team, well, as read, McFall, Craig Clark, Gabe McNamee, Bunker, Robson, Dyson, Davis, Jim Smith was in the team this time, and Benny Arontoft. Unfortunately, in the second half, Keith Dyson got an injury, and Harvey, for some reason, sent on Ollie Burton. I mean, he often did this. He swaps an attacking forward, and he puts a centre half on. But never mind, that's his choice. He's the boss, as it were. So we go home now to a game against Liverpool, and they're another one of the 3 or 4 teams who people are expected to be challenging for the title. So this isn't going to be easy. The fact it's Liverpool boosts the crowd. We're up to 45,000 for this one, and I remember being at this game. It was a tough game, a really hard game, and Tommy Smith, the Anfield line, whose tackling was legendary, really made an impression all over the field on this in this game, and he made an impression on one or two legs as well. Anyway, we beat them 1-0, which is fantastic. As I say, with 45,000 there, it was a great fill-up for the fans and for the team, and our team is red, except that Jimmy Smith slotted into the team on this occasion, and actually has a very good game. Probably the best game he's had so far since he came from Aberdeen. Liverpool, with all the stars, Lawrence, Lawler, Smith, Yates, Hughes, Callaghan, Thompson, Jeff Strong, Bobby Graham, and Alan Evans. They had it strengthened depth even then with Shankly. I mean, he always had a strong squad, and he certainly did that. So we get a 1-0 win, which is fantastic because it puts us at the right half of the league. So next we're off to Tottenham Hotspur, an away game to Tottenham Hotspur, and there it is. White Hart Lane, 33,300, and we always look to have a go at Tottenham because they're renowned for playing football, and we do. But unfortunately, it's not to be. We lose 2-1 with goals from Jimmy Greaves, 54 and 79 minutes, and everybody's resigned to the defeat. But then suddenly, 87 minutes, up pops Pop Robson, and we're 2-1. And suddenly the last 10 minutes is quite exciting because Tottenham are already battling against Wyn Davies and Pop Robson, and it begins to look like we might get a draw. Well, we didn't, but at least the lads had a go, which was great. Tottenham team, well, all the stars: Jennings, Knowles, Mike England, Steve Perryman now in the team, a talented midfielder, Alan Murray, Martin Chivers at centre forward, Jimmy Greaves and Alan Gilzean playing alongside Chivers. Alan Gilzean, the Scottish centre forward. A very talented Tottenham team. For a team that played football, so you were always guaranteed if you could have a go with Tottenham. But we lost 2-1. It wasn't a disaster, but it kept with people got some confidence out of the fact that we didn't get turned over. In the next game, we're at home to Chelsea, and Chelsea are going to give us a good game. There's no doubt about that. And our team stays the same: McFall, Craig Clark, etc. And Jim Smith stays in the team. And Chelsea have got all their stars: Peter Bonetti, Ron Harris, Eddie McCready, Charlie Cook, John Collins, Alan Hudson, Peter Houseman, and Peter Osgood. It's interesting. Chelsea's Charlie Cook came from Aberdeen, and his replacement at Aberdeen was Jim Smith, and Jim Smith was in our team, which is quite interesting. Both costing a lot of money. Jim Smith was our record signing, about 100,000, and I think Charlie Cook, when he went to Chelsea, wasn't far behind there either. So somebody at Aberdeen knew how to create midfielders. Anyway, we lost 1-0 thanks to a Peter Osgood goal. He on the hour got a simple header from a corner. Poor marking really, and he was left alone, and that's deadly with somebody like Osgood. So we're now a bit concerned because we're dropping below the middle of the league, and we don't want to be doing that. We want to be pushing up near the top as they had been the previous season. So we're now off to Burnley, and Burnley's always like a bit like home from home because they always field a team that's got lots of Geordies in it. So it's as I say, home from home. So we're off to Burnley, 16,400 at the game, and it's a tough game. It's end-to-end stuff, but very few goals. And then just before, just when everybody was starting to think it was going to be a 0-0, when Davies pops up with a header, 78 minutes, and we get a 1-0 victory, which is brilliant for our league position and for our confidence and so on. The team: McFall, Craig, Clark, Gibb, Burton, Monker, Pop Robson, Keith Dyson, Wyn Davies, and Jimmy Cowan, the young lad that Harvey brought in, and he gave him a row, but he got injured, and Benny Arontoft had to come on. And with Harry Potts as manager, Burnley had Peter Miller, Doherty, Latcham, Sam Todd, Brian O'Neill, Martin Dobson, Collins, Kindon, Ralph Coates, Frank Casper, and Arthur Bellamy. And at least 6 of those names are from either Northumberland or Durham. So we've got to win it, and we're heading in the right direction. The next game is a home game against Sunderland, and that's it. And they're just hung on by the skin of their teeth last season, and they don't look to be doing much better this season. So everybody's hopeful that we'll get it. We'll get a win out of this, and that's Wyn Davies scoring the goal that he scored. We beat them 3-0. Keith Dyson scored 2 and Wyn Davies the other.
Is that Len Ashurst on the left?
Yes. And of course, this is not far from Len Ashurst's swan song, because I think the season after he retires.
Right.
Who it is. Yeah. And our team, predictable: McFall, Craig, Clark, etc., with slight differences that everybody's fit. So Pop Robson, Keith Dyson are back in the team, and Jackie Sinclair, and Jimmy Scott is the substitute with Jim Smith. Sunderland team, well, again, very predictable: Montgomery, Irwin, Ashurst, Seth Irwin, of course, I played with at school and knew from Northumberland days. Colin Todd, Mick McGivern, who was a youngster coming into the Sunderland team and had a good career with them. Billy Hughes, another youngster coming in who had a good career with Sunderland, and Joe Baker, ex-Arsenal centre forward, who they bought from Nottingham Forest to boost their attack, and then Bobby Kerr and another young fella that they introduced on the left side of their attack, who was going to be in our sides for a while, called Dennis Stewart. And what a player he was. But we're 3-0 win, and that's us a lot happier. We're heading towards the middle of the league and above now. And then suddenly, after that game, on the following Wednesday, we have a friendly. And it's a friendly against Sunderland. And for the life of me, I cannot see why we played this game. I've looked at all the papers and dug, but there was a friendly at Roker Park for which 6,500 turned up. I mean, really? For a derby match of any description, seems so. Whatever it was for, it didn't work, because we lost, and we lost 4-2, which haven't just beat them beforehand. It just seemed daft to do something like that. But hey ho, I'm not the manager. That's up to the club. And with a crowd like that, it certainly couldn't have been there for money. 6,500. Not going to make that much difference here and there. Anyway, the next game is a home game against Nottingham Forest, and Forest are below us and not playing terribly well, but we've got to be on our toes, because they include a couple of former players of ours, including a young man, well, not a young man anymore, but called David Hilly, who served us very well. Who was a good player for us. And in this particular game, Dave Hilly had a really, really good game, as most ex-Newcastle players do when they come back to St James's Park. Our team was so predictable. It's not worth reading out. Well, I will. McFall, Craig, Clark, Gibb, Burton, Bunker, Robson, Dyson, Davis, Aaron Toft, and Sinclair. Wyn Davis gets injured in the second half, and Jimmy Scott comes on and plays the centre forward while Wyn goes off. We beat Forest 3-1 with goals from Keith Dyson, an own goal from Hindley, their fullback, and a rare goal from David Craig. And it was, I remember being at the game, and it was just, he just hit it and hoped from the edge of the area. Well, it went in the top corner, and of course David Craig, being the lad he was just so delighted to have scored, having been with the club for so long, and everybody else was thrilled for him. So 3-1 win, and of course very predictable who would score the Nottingham Forest goal, wouldn't it? Dave Hilly, of course. Yeah, you know, it's very, very predictable, I'm afraid, when people come back to play against us. So now we're looking forward to our next foray into the Fairs Cup, and we're drawn against Porto from Portugal, and it's. That's the home one. I couldn't get the away one. The away one was first, Steve. Sorry, and we get it. We get a 0-0. Is the two pictures there told with
just the one, mate?
The one, right? All right. Yes. Oh well, that's here anyway. So we'll leave it at that. We get a 0-0 draw at Porto, and everybody's really, really thrilled about that, because the 0-0 away from home is as good as a victory if you can get at least one goal on your own midden. And so we're heading through to the next round by the look of things. Our team is the team that's been playing all season. You know, McFall, Craig, Clark, Gibb, Burton, Monker, etc. And on the left wing is Jimmy Scott, and unfortunately Jimmy gets injured in the middle of the second half, and Harvey throws on Ron Guthrie, left fullback in place of a left winger. I suppose there's some sense in the fact that we're protecting a 0-0, so it would be quite useful to have another defender on. And Porto, of course, got lots of Portuguese nationals in the team. Nunes, Valdemar, Rolando, Pinto, João Pinto, Santos, and big spattering of seasoned internationals in the Porto team. And but we got a 0-0, which everybody was thrilled about. Then we come home to a league game against Coventry City, and
is this a home game or an away game?
Yeah, home game to Coventry. Yeah, and it's not. It's an away game. Sorry,
I was going to say, because I've got an away program ready to go.
Yeah, I was still thinking about the next game. We're away at Coventry. Whether it had anything to do with the fact that we'd been in Europe just a few days before, but we get beat off Coventry 1-0. But Coventry in those days were a tidy side and had some good players. Our team was the team that played in Europe almost identically, because Harvey took the unusual step of keeping Ron Guthrie on the left wing, having substituted him in Portugal as for the left winger. He kept him in the team for the league game at Coventry, and I'm sure you talk to Harvey, he'd have perfectly good reasons for that, but never mind. Coventry team, well, Glazier was a character, the goalkeeper, Blockley, Dave Clements, Willie Carr, talented midfielder. Ernie Machin and Morris Setters, tough guys in the midfield. And a striker they introduced by the name of Ernie Hunt, who was become a stalwart with Coventry for a lot of years, and eventually I think played for England. So we get our beat at Coventry, but then just time to catch our breath, and we're back home for the home game against Porto, which is there, and with a 0-0 away from home, everybody at least is hopeful that we're going to get something out of the game. 1 goal's all we need, and as you can see, it's early snow in November, and it's interesting that they didn't react to the snow the way the Statue Ball lads did the previous season. They came out and they played and got on with it, but I suspect they when they saw that the referee was somebody from Germany and who used to refereeing in snow, they wouldn't get much change. Anyway, 45,000 at the game, which was great, and entertaining game, good football, 2 good football teams having a go at each other. And lo and behold, on 20 minutes, Jimmy Scott puts us ahead, which really seals the tie for us to go to the next round. And everybody's to say that they're happy, is putting it mildly. And the team identical to what I've just read out before. And Porto team is the same team that played in Portugal. And the player I liked was a lad, and there's a player now with a similar name called João Pinto. He was really hot at St James's Park. And it he took a lot of handling. However, we kept it to 1-0 in advance to the next round of the Fairs Cup. We then off to Stoke City, an away game at Stoke City, and we're going to have a tough game. Stoke's playing well, and the view is that we're going to struggle to get something out of the Victoria ground on this one. 18,000 at the game, but lo and behold, we shouldn't have worried. We got a 1-0 win thanks to a Pop Robson goal. He popped up just before the end, 5 minutes from the end, and hammered in a beautiful drive from the edge of the penalty area, and clearly that was us going home with the points. Stoke played well as they usually did. I mean, Tony Waddington was a manager that liked to play good football. Gordon Banks in goal, and then a fullback who became quite famous there and in our neck of the woods, called Dennis Smith, who came into that team, and then Jimmy Greenhoff that bought from Leeds, and a little man called George Eastham, who used to play for Newcastle United, was back in that team because he'd been injured, and Harry Burrows and Peter Dubbin who finished the forward line. But it was our game. Stoke seemed content with 0-0, which turned out to be a bit of a mistake because Pop Robson made them pay for that. And we're now off to an away game at Derby, and again fixtures not very kind to us. Two on a trot away from home, and well, people are hoping that having got a victory at Stoke, surely we could do the same at Derby. Well, we couldn't, is the honest answer. We got beat 2-0. Our team unchanged, except on the left side. Jackie Sinclair is stood down, and a young lad called Gordon Heinsohn, who Harvey had promoted from the juniors, had signed professional from the juniors, got a run out. And Derby's team littered with stars: Roy McFarland, Dave Mackay, Willie Carlin, Alan Durbin, who we get to know better as manager of a team that we know quite well. John McGovern, again, somebody else who we got to know quite well because they played in another team that we know. Alan Hinton, and John O'Hare, who they bought from Sunderland, and Kevin Hector, who was a left winger. A good Derby team, but sadly we weren't at the races in this game, and some could say that with Hinton and McGovern scoring, it could have been more, because we really weren't at the races in this game, which was not something you said very much against Newcastle, because we always seem to give a good account of ourselves. We're now at home to Southampton, and it's the next round of the Fairs Cup. And there it is. Everybody's hopeful that we should be able to get something out of Southampton in this game, but it was a 0-0, and it was a really dour 0-0. Southampton came to be difficult, no doubt about that, and they just played defence, and for once we just weren't able to break it down. 38,100 at the game, and our team, as read: McFall, Craig, Clark, Gibb, Burton, Moncard, Robson, Dyson, Davies, Aaron Toft, and Jimmy Scott. And after 55 minutes, Jimmy Scott went off, and Alan Foggen came on. Southampton with Ted Bates as their manager, and Ted Bates had a reputation of being a bit of a tactician, and he played a very defensive formation, which included John McGrath, of course, who used to play for us, and Jimmy Gabriel, ex-Everton, Hugh Fisher, Ron Davies, Terry Payne, and Mickey Shannon. Basically, they played everybody behind the ball apart from Shannon and Shivers, and played out this 0-0 draw. Disappointing for the crowd, and because people are expecting so much more, but as I say, we can't win them all. Well, some people think we should win them all, but never mind. We got to go back to Southampton and do it all over again. And the next one's the away leg of the Fairs Cup.
Now, I've got two programmes for this, George, and I'm not sure why.
Ah, right.
Is one of them a league game?
That must be a league game, surely. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm not sure why that's there in that position. Anyway, it doesn't matter. That's where we are anyway. We're at Southampton for the return leg, and we look like we're on our way out. Nick Shannon scores early in the first half, and Southampton look like they're going to hang on. It's disappointing to say the least, and it looks like that's where it's going to go. And then all of a sudden, Pop Robson and Wyn Davies carve out a little piece of magic, and we're got a goal. We're 1-1, and that's just turning us. It's the winning goal, because the away goal is in the Fairs Cup is golden, and at that time there was no way Southampton were going to get another one. So we're through 2-1, and everybody's, to say that cockle hoops, putting it mildly, to say the least. So we look forward to the next the next round of the First Cup. See who we get from in that round. Do you want to do your adverts, Steve? I've got to sort some papers out here.
Will do. Okay. Thanks to everybody who supports us, and here's the ads. A big thanks to our sponsors, Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay as you go waste collection. Thanks to Darren Baldwin Funerals, based on Old Durham Road in Gateshead. Their phone number is 0191 478 2730. You can email Darren at darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk or go to the website darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk. Thanks to Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD, hemp and cannabinoid specialists based on Nunn Street. The GOHD.com is their website. And thanks again to 3 Property Investments, who specialise in sourcing investment properties for their clients who are looking to invest in the North East. They offer a full in-house service from sourcing the deals to managing the properties for you. They've done over 100 plus deals in the past 12 months for clients all over the UK. Give them a follow on Instagram, matty.patter_northeast property and phil.reed_northeast property, or email phil@3property.co.uk if you're interested in getting a good property deal. Thanks to the lads at Mr. Vicky's Handmade in Cumbria. These are hot sauces, and you can find them at mrvickys.co.uk or place an order by ringing 01768 210 102. Thanks also to the lads at Blowhole Brewery, a fine amount of ales available from their website, www.blowholebrewery.co.uk. Thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the video technology. Thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, nufcmatters.com. If you want to subscribe, hit the badge in the corner, and you can subscribe for free. Still do 7 shows a week. Hit the thumb up to like the video and click share to share to your social media. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and the rest. And if you want to become a member, click join underneath this video, or you can put your smartphone over the QR code. It will take you to the membership section of the website. If you choose to go that way, then you will get a pen, a cup, a scarf and a membership card, and entry into the monthly draw for a one-off payment of £25. We also give you something for free. If you want a car window sticker, email john@nufcmatters.com and he will send you one if you are a subscriber. We also help the food bank on here. NUFC fans, foodbank.co.uk is the matchday bucket. If you go there, you can make a virtual donation at any time of the year. And don't forget, Peter Beardsley Soccer School, October half term, Monday the 24th to Friday the 28th of October. You can book now, peterbeardsley.soccerschool.com. Peter's also running Monday night training on the 26th of October. Again, the same website. And if you want to meet Peter Beardsley, well, you've got 3 chances. Newcastle Legends game, Friday, October the 14th. The Peter Beardsley talk-in is taking place after the game. Tickets for this are available from nufcmatters.com. Adult admission is £5, junior admission is £2. The talk-in is adults only, and that is a tenner. And the events are all taking place at the Fox Hunters Pavilion in North Shields. We've got Peter Beardsley available, tickets available for the St Dom's Catholic Club show. You need to go straight to their website and you just buy your tickets there. And for this one at the Irish Centre, tickets are available now on nufcmatters.com. Don't forget, Supermax at the Dog and Parrot, every pre-match and every post-match, every home game. And John Gibson and John Anderson are at Pumphrey's pre-match only. If you did like our true crime stuff, it has all migrated to the True Crime channel. So get yourself across there on YouTube and subscribe today. Back with George. Okay, yeah. George.
Thanks, Steve. You know, you had those 2 Southampton programmes together.
I don't have them anymore, mate, I'm afraid.
That's all right. I'm not worried. It's just that on my sheet, there's actually 3 games at Southampton, and one of them is the FA Cup 3rd round.
Ah, right. Okay. Well, I've shown the programme, so people have seen it.
Right. And nothing special about the programmes anyway. The other thing is that jumping my eyes from one Southampton game in the First Cup to the other, I jumped over 2 league games against Ipswich and Leeds, which we won. We beat Ipswich 4-0 and we beat Leeds 2-1 at home. significantly taking us into the top half of the league. And then the next, there should be an Arsenal programme in there somewhere, Steve. Yeah, we had an away game against Arsenal, and we got a 0-0 against Arsenal as well, which was quite something. The only downside is that yes, we got the 1-1 against Southampton in the FA's Cup, but in the FA Cup they beat with 3-0. So that's the end of the FA Cup. Perhaps it was a mental block on my part that didn't want to mention that. I don't know. It might well. Anyway, we go to the FA's Cup and with that 1-1 draw. The next game I've got is an away game against Wolves. There should be a Wolves programme in there somewhere. That's it. And we've had a series of good results, as I've just read out. A couple of good wins against good teams, and everybody's optimistic that we could get something at Wolves. 29,600 at the game, and we don't get a win, but we get a 1-1 draw, which at Wolves is at Molineux something not to be sniffed at. And our team, it's becoming boring now. McFall, Craig, Clark, Gibb, McNamee's in instead of Burton, Monk, Robson, Jim Smith's in, Wyn Davies, Ron Guthrie, and David Ford. Wolves team, lots of stars, and Derek Dugan's in this time, and which was, as I said, the last game. That's maybe why Harvey played John McNamee, because Dugan was a real roughhouser. There's no doubt about that. He could push and shove for Ireland. Dean Wagstaff, Mike Bailey, Jim Malcaliog were all internationals, and Wolves had a good side. So 1-1 at Wolves against 29,500 crowd was a good result. And I suppose Harvey's tactics of playing McNamee to suppress Dugan was proved right. In fact, the next game is an away game against Everton, now Everton are now knocking on the door of the Championship. They are really the team to beat. So we're going there at a time when they're on a high. Fortunately, we're going when we're on a bit of a high as well. It's had some good results. 42,300. That's Ollie Burton and Alan Ball at Goodison Park. It's interesting when I look at that picture that when I've been away to Goodison Park, it's this side where the picture's been taken from that I've been on, and one of the worst stands I've been in football, to be honest. I never known a stand have so many girders in it. And in fact, the last time we were there, it was quite dangerous, I thought, but never mind. So we go to Everton, 42,800 at the game. So they're expecting a lot, and our team is as expected with Benny Arontoft in and John McNamee still playing at centre half, and Everton with their full team with Wes LeBone, Tommy Wright, John Hurst, Colin Harvey, Howard Kendall, John Morrissey, Jimmy Husband, Joe Royal, and another little forward who became quite a star for them was Alan Whittle, was introduced at this game. It was his debut. So we get a 0-0, and we're going slowly but surely climbing up towards the league, and everybody's heaving a sigh of relief. So next game is a home game against Crystal Palace, and 36,800 at the game. Big crowd for Palace, and they're playing reasonably well, Palace, at this time, but certainly not much better than us. But it's a 0-0 draw, but it's an attractive 0-0. I remember being at this one because I particularly wanted to go and see the young Scottish midfielder that introduced called Jerry Queen, who everybody was talking about as being a star of the future, and he certainly was. The other interesting thing is that they were playing Bob Tamblyn from Chelsea on the left wing. They had just bought in just a couple of days before he came to Newcastle for this match. Our team 0-0 we got at Fall, Craig Clark, etc. Only change was that Alan Foggin was on the left wing instead of David Ford. So now we're home to West Brom, and we get a 1-0 win against West Brom. Always attractive football side, West Brom. The history was that sort of thing. 32,500 at the game, and our team's unchanged. McCall, Craig Clark, etc. And West Bromwich by now have got Ray Wilson, the England fullback from Huddersfield, and they've got Len Cantello from West Ham. Asa Hartford's in the team, and Colin Suggett is now playing for West Brom, who they just bought from our near neighbours. Bobby Hope, Tony Brown, and of course Jeff Astill. A 1-0 win at St James's with Keith Dyson scoring the goal. So we're now well and truly set for the middle of the league and hopefully heading to the top six is what people want and get back into Europe again. Although if we win the Fairs Cup, we'll get it back into Europe. We're now at home to Southampton, and by this time the two teams must be sick of the sight of each other, because this is game number 4. Is it number 5? Number 4 in the series. And anyway, they come and we beat them 2-1. Wyn Davies and Jim Smith scored. Mickey Shannon frightened him by scoring the first goal in the first couple of minutes. And but Jimmy Smith and Wyn Davies calmed the nerves, and we ran out 2-1 winners. So now not just looking at the middle of the table, we're now looking at, as I say, being in the top end of the table, top 6. And we go to an away match at Liverpool, and with some trepidation, because Liverpool, like Everton, are being talked about as possible title holders. However, we've had a good run of results, so and our lads always dig in when they go to Anfield, and 38,000 at the game. And sure enough, we get a 0-0. The team play really, really well, really hard, and Harvey sends his well-tried team, McFall, Clark on the right now because Craig's injured. Ron Guthrie's in. Gabe McNamee, Monker, Robson, Jimmy Smith, Wyn Davies, and Jimmy Thompson, a young lad from the juniors that he's given a run out, and David Ford on the left wing. So slight change from previous. But Liverpool, you can nearly recite their team. It was so Shankly was so fixed with it. Lawrence, Lawler, Smith, Yates, Hughes, Callahan, St John, Strong, Graham, Alan Evans. The only name that's missing there is Peter Thompson, who I believe was injured on that day. But we get a 0-0, which is very, very creditable at Anfield at any time, but especially when they're in a position to challenge for the league. They're usually pressing very hard. And we getting ready for an away game to Chelsea, but lo and behold, we have a friendly, Steve. A friend, and it's against Dundee United, who have just played in the Fairs Cup. I mean, again, I don't know what that's all about. We beat Dundee 3-2. There's 9,000 people at the game, and I'm sure that Dundee United were happy to take that money, but that can only be the reason that we played that game. In the middle of a tense league programme and a Fairs Cup programme, to go and play a friendly at that juncture seemed... Anyway, we win 3-2, and Monker, Dyson and Robson score our goals. And Dundee gave a bit of a fright because in the last 2 minutes they scored 2 goals. But anyway, that being over, we're now off to Chelsea for an away game. and there could be a Chelsea. Yeah, there's the Chelsea programme. And, they're on the metal. The friendly's not done them any harm. We get another 0-0 out of it. I mean, Harvey's favoured defensive groupings working wonders for him, with the same team playing for us. And Chelsea, with all the stars in, they test a new young goalkeeper called Tommy Hughes, who eventually becomes quite a star. And they bought Alan Birchnall from Sheffield United now. But otherwise, Charlie Cook, John Hollins, Alan Hudson, Tommy Baldwin, the Gateshead lad. And so we got a 0-0, and that's in London and at Chelsea is quite a fillip, quite a boost for the team and for the supporters. You know, we're happy that that's happened. Obviously, next game's a home game against Tottenham. Now, Tottenham gave a good game at their place, but we thought, well, we nearly snatched a draw. Surely we can get a draw out of this one at St James as well. We didn't. Tottenham beat with 2-1, 35,000 at the game, and it was Chivas and PS scored their goals, and then just before the end, John McNamee got a header from a corner to make it 2-1. The last 10 minutes was exciting because they were all over the place trying to defend against Wyn Davies. And this particular game, although we lost, was probably the first time that Jimmy Smith showed the sort of dribbling skills that he possessed, that Harvey had been telling everybody all season he was going to do. But unfortunately, it didn't happen. Anyway, Tottenham 2-1 at home was disappointing, but not a complete disaster. And it's not making a dent in our league position. We're still doing quite well. And fortunately, we got on the Monday night. After that, we've got another home game against West Ham. Now, West Ham's team always gives us trouble, but they didn't give us trouble on this occasion. We were in top form, and another game where Wyn Davies and Alan Foggan tore West Ham to pieces, but just between them, the rest of the team just supported them. Davies was beating everything and everybody in the air, and Alan Foggan was beating everybody out on the wings to provide the crosses for Wyn Davies. Now, our team was predictable. Paul Craggs, because Clarkey was injured. Gabe McNamee, Monka, Robson, Smith, Davies, Foggan and Dyson. West Ham had their strong team out. Bobby Moore was in the team, Billy Bonds. They had now bought Peter Eustace from Sheffield Wednesday, who was a very talented player. Martin Peters was in the team, Harry Redknapp and Jeff Hurst. And lo and behold, despite the fact Peter Eustace giving them the lead on 20 minutes, we beat them 4-1 with Keith Dyson, Pop Robson, Wyn Davies and Alan Foggan scoring our goals. So a bigger win than anybody would have anticipated. And of course, gets us nicely settled at the top half of the league, and gets us prepared for the next game, which is an away game against Anderlecht in Holland for the next round of the First Cup. I was surprised to be able to find that online, actually, and pleased to. But another one, which, like Rangers, they actually have put a photograph of our team on the front of that programme, which I think is quite a nice thing to do, but never mind. So we go to Anderlecht, hoping that we get into the next round. Well, it's not one of our best games, and Anderlecht are littered with Dutch internationals, Mulder, Van Himst, Heelens, Martens, and so on. They really are a strong team. And our team's fine. It's the one that we'd all expect to play. John McNamee stayed in centre half, gets injured in second half, and Ollie Burton goes on. But a game, one of the poorest first cup games I think we had. We Anderlecht just didn't let us into the game at all. That may be being harsh. I think it's more about Anderlecht being very good than us being very bad. So we come home with our tails between our legs, unfortunately, against Anderlecht. And the next game is an away game at West Bromwich Albion. Not the sort of place you want to go after the defeat. So we're slightly with some trepidation, but lo and behold, the team wakes up and get a 2-2 draw. And if they'd kept awake, they could might have won this one. Dyson and Robson scored our goals. Jeff Aspel scored their goals. And but it was a good game, an entertaining game, a good 2-2 draw for us. 19,600 at the game. And Jeff Aspel showed on this occasion why he was the star that he was. But both his goals were headers. I mean, that's what he was like. Noticeable that any free kick or any corner, Aspel was being marked by Wyn Davies and not the defenders, which makes common sense to me. So we're now back home for the return leg against Anderlecht. The Geordie support wants us through this game. 59,300 in this game tells you all you need to know about how keen everybody is for this. And they just don't let Anderlecht have the ball. And Pop Robson scores 2 in the first half. Dyson scores another just towards the end, 85 minutes, and then they get a consolation goal on 87 minutes. So a 3-1 win. So we're now heading to we're now struggling to go forward because of that last minute goal. The away goal is a killer, and it's a 3-3 draw, but the away goal for Anderlecht sends us out of the cup, which is huge disappointment for everybody, obviously. But what they could say is that the team really did give it a go. The 3-1 win against Anderlecht was a real triumph in many ways. So we've now got the league to think about. Next game's a home one against Stoke, and we beat Stoke 3-1 at St James's with 29,000 there. Wyn Davies, Pop Robson 2, Richie scores for Stoke, and our team has remained the same throughout the season. He'd try in 1 or 2 new faces. He's put young John Cowan in instead of Bob Bunker, who's injured, and given him a run out. But they play well. I remember being at this game. They play well, and really no way Stoke were going to get anything out of this game. And of course, Stoke played Gordon Banks was in goal, and George Easton was playing for them. Jimmy Greenhoff was at centre forward. A good 3-1 victory. The next game is at Walker Park, a game against Sunderland, and we and that's Bob Bunker and McFall and at Walker Park, and that sadly is the Sunderland goal, which was scored by Park, a young player that they brought in the game. So a 1-1 was a disaster for us, but it was desperate for them because they're now again for the second season running, hanging on to the first division by the skin of their teeth. And our team was the team that you'd expect, with Monco back in the team and Young Cones back on the bench, and a point which secures our mid-table position, which everybody's thrilled about, obviously. The next game's an away game to Nottingham Forest. Well, everybody having thrashed Forest at home, we think perhaps we can get something there at the City Ground. And we do. We get a 2-2 draw with Keith Dyson and Pop Robson scoring for us. And lo and behold, Dave Hilly and Barry Lyons scoring for Nottingham Forest. It's a decent game, a decent draw, and gives us another point to, as I say, cement us in the middle to the top half of the table. So the next match we go home to a game against Burnley, and everybody thinks, well, yeah, he has another 2 points coming up. Well, don't count your chickens, is what Burnley beat us 1-0 at St James's Park with 33,000 at the game, the 31 minutes is the goal that matters, and it's an unfortunate headed own goal by Bob Munker at a corner. The ball hit him rather than the other way around. But Burnley get the 1-0 win and kind of dents our celebrations that we've been having so far. So we're now heading to a home game against Manchester United, and people are realising that a couple of wins the last 2 games, and we're going to be in the higher than the top half. We're going to be in the top half dozen, and we play Manchester United. Well, that's going to take some ask. Well, lo and behold, they go bananas, and it's a game where Jimmy Smith really demonstrated why Harvey was blowing his trumpet about them all season, and they beat Manchester United 5-1. Now that's a familiar score, isn't it? 5-1 with Manchester United. Pop Robson's hat-trick, Wyn Davies and Jimmy Smith. And Pop Robson, I think, would be the first to acknowledge that his 3 goals were laid on the plate by Jim Smith. He was just unplayable that day. And Wyn Davies threw in a goal as well. 43,000 at the game, and our team was as expected. McFall, Craig, Clarkey was injured, so Ron Guthrie played. Other than that, it was the team you'd expect. There was a bit of amusement towards the end, and that is that Ian McFall got injured. And who did Harvey send on to go and goal? Little Benny Arentoft. I mean, he's got a huge big ex-centre half sitting on the bench, and he sends little Benny Arentoft on his substitute goalkeeper. Well, later afterwards, I found out that that's because Benny Arentoft was a tiny goalkeeper. When they played in practice, he always wanted to play the goal and honed his skills that way. Well, he got his chance in this match against Manchester United. And it wasn't just a weak Manchester team. It was a good team. You know, Stepney, Sadler, Dunn, Aston, Curran, Morgan, Styles, Charlton, Fitzpatrick, and then they introduced a young midfielder called Alan Gowland, who, again, we get to know quite well. 1 more game left, and we've got Coventry City. Coventry's not playing very well, and lo and behold, the lads really have a go at this one. And again, it's Jimmy Smith tearing Coventry apart, and Lane goes on for Fogg and Gibb, Pop Robson, Keith Dyson, 33,000 at the match, and we beat them 4-0. And Coventry had their strongest team out, but they just were no match on that day. So we end the season on a high, and in fact, we ended up 7th, which puts us in at least within the consideration for something in Europe again. And so it was a creditable season by anybody's imagination. The interesting feature of the season is the way that Harvey stuck with that back 5 as hard as he could. And his reward, we only conceded 35 goals in 42 matches. I mean, Everton became champions, and they conceded 34. The only other team to get anywhere near us, well, there wasn't another team to get anywhere near us, they were all, 48s, 50s, 2s, 55s. Our 35 looks really mean compared to that. But it's reward for the way Harvey's got the confidence in those lads at the back, in my opinion, and reward for the way they played as well. Now, we think the season's over. Well, we're not. We're off to Canada to play a series of exhibition games. We play Aberdeen, we play Chicago, Victoria Royals twice, Vancouver Spartans twice, Seattle Seapacks, and Eintracht Frankfurt. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games in 3 weeks. I mean, what an end to a season. So that takes the tally of games to over 60 games. And again, some of the players whose names I've been reading out here played in a lot. It just it answers the faith that Harvey has in these players, but also it tells you about the loyalty that they have to him as well. There's nobody lying down with fake injuries in that lot. They're all playing games. So that was a good season, a good finish. Sad end to the Fairs Cup. Usual sad end to the League Cup and the FA Cup. It's hard to say that, but that's what it was like. But 7's quite a credited performance for this team. So there you are, 69, 70, and a team that's people are hoping that the following season will bring even more to the club as well.
Great stuff as always, George. Thanks for your time. Take care. See you on the next one.
Okay, Steve. See you then.